So this is the acoustic model, MFCC, probability of this MFCC given the class. Class is basically the state here. So you can use a neural network to model this. In neural network, you will be modeling probability of class given the state. Class given the MFCC feature, right? Or whatever acoustic feature is there. So that will be neural network, and GMM will give you O given D. And then you have finite state transducer here, which basically is you define it beforehand that for my phoneme I will have three states, A1, A2, A3, right? So you are defining it beforehand. Then this one is probability of phonemes given the word. This is basically your lexicon. And this also you are defining beforehand. And then here, this is your grammar, basically what are the sequences of words which are allowed, right? And you have an FSA to model that. And you saw there are different kinds of grammars which are possible. One is the um, uh, um, um, the most generally used one is the n-gram based grammar, right? N-gram based grammar is very commonly used. And then finally the whole thing, you get a large map, right? Get a large graph like this. So imagine you get a big graph like this, and you have some data, some sequence of O's, and then uh, this general graph you take, you, you want to find the best path, like given those O's, what is the best path you can trace? And that best path is given by basically Viterbi decoding. And to do Viterbi decoding, uh, your FST itself has a utility. Your finite, sorry, Open FST library has a function to do the Viterbi decoding, and the Viterbi decoding will give you, let's say, top three or top five. You can specify those many paths. So now, in the language of ASR, that whole graph or that Viterbi decoding trellis, it is called a lattice. So when you read Kaldi documentation, you will often see this term lattice, and you may be confused. What is this word lattice? So lattice is basically that graph which is used for decoding. Means which is basically telling you what are the different sequences possible, different paths possible, and it is weighted, right? There are weights associated with each arc. So this was the overview of ASR. Now the thing is that, okay, there are too many parameters to be learned. For example, you see, let's look just at the acoustic model. In the acoustic model, there are let's say each phoneme has got three states, and if there are let's say how many 50 phonemes, then there will be 150 states. That looks little manageable. uh, but imagine now if I don't use a monophone but I use a triphone. Okay, so first of all, this monophone is has 150 states, and it has got less flexibility, less variability. So that is why the accuracy is also smaller. But this model can be made more flexible and more accurate by increasing the number of parameters. That is why instead of monophones, we use triphones. Triphones are like, for example, instead of saying, um, what do you say, I can say ka, a, ka. Let's say whenever I see these triphones, basically a can be uh, preceded by some phoneme, and it can be succeeded by some other phoneme. And if I make this kind of triphones, how many triphones will I get? Let's say there are 50 phonemes. Uh, yeah, please tell answer. There are 50 phonemes, and instead of monophones, we can use triphones. So monophones have 50 into 3 states. Right? We are using tri-states. Now, to increase the flexibility, which means basically the accuracy, instead of monophones, we use triphones. Now, how many triphones are there? Number of triphones? Yes. Pardon? It will be 50 into 50 into 50. Right? So there are 3 locations here. 50 different phonemes can come. Here different 50 phonemes can come. Here 50 different phonemes can come. So 50 into 50 into 50 number of phonemes are possible. And then how many number of states are there? Number of states will be, so each triphone will have 3 states. So it is 50 to the power 3 into 3. Right? It's a large number. Right? So generally, it becomes very difficult. And also, not all states are possible, right? For example, I cannot have an followed by followed by right? Because 3 together. Basically, I cannot have a phoneme which is preceded and succeeded by only. So I may say there are 49 here and there are 49 here. So in this way, there are different constraints possible. For example, there are constraints in phoneme co-occurrences. For example, um, example, in Sanskrit there are 4 consonants at a stretch possible. You cannot have more than 4 consonants occurring together, right? Like that, there are many constraints. For example, uh, you cannot have, okay, let us say in English you cannot have a q follow, always a q is followed by a u in English, in the written form, not in the spoken form. So like that, there are different constraints which are there. Um, so to handle those constraints, we means basically which will reduce the number of uh, triphones, right? But then this whole exercise becomes very manual and it is not nice. So instead, what we do is, and also, okay, uh, large number of parameters need large amount of data for training. And some sequences may be so rare and you may not have sufficient data even to train them. For example, uh, a sequence like this sequence itself, this may be very uh, un, uh, what do you say, not very common. Whereas a sequence like this, ing, this is very common, right? This is very common. This is uncommon, kak, right? And if your training data does not have this occurring at all, how will you ever be able to train it, right? So that is why we use some tricks to reduce the number of triphones. Now, it's a major task to reduce the number of triphones we use. Okay, one is phonological knowledge. How do you use phonological knowledge? Instead of saying an a follow with a phoneme preceded and succeeded by another phoneme, we can make categories, which are phonological categories. For example, I can say a consonant, which is a plosive, which is yeah, uh, following preceding an and then again follow. What follows is a consonant, which is a plosive. Like instead of saying ka, I make a group of several phonemes which are very similar in their utterance. And we assume from phonological knowledge, we kind of know that they will affect the in a same way. For example, if I say pa or ta, in both the things, I have a plosive like pa. Pa is a plosive because my lips are closing and then opening. Similarly, ta, my tongue is touching my upper uh, upper surface, and then uh, it's releasing with an explosion. With it's called a plosive. So ta, pa, ka, these are all plosives, and we from phonological knowledge we can say that they will affect an in a same way. So in this way, we make certain categories, phonological categories of phonemes, and then we make triphones in this way. So these are not exactly triphones, but some category, then phoneme, then some category, and these are phonological categories. Right? Um, it could be consonant, which is a strident. Stridents are like sir is a strident, or there are like fricatives, like fur is a fricative. Like there are categories basically. I'm not going into phonological knowledge here because that is a big topic. Um it is followed by something, maybe a consonant, plosive only. In this way, I can make several categories and use them to make my triphones so as to reduce the number of triphones. But this is also a lot of manual effort needed. Instead, what can I do is I can do a statistical statistically tie up the states. What does this mean? This means I start with a large number of triphones theoretically, but looking at my data, I can tie up my states. I can say, okay, my uh, ka and pa, they are affecting my in a similar way. So let me tie up those states, or basically I use the same model to model both. It basically means use the same model to, or use the same HMM state to model similar triphones. So basically, let's say two different triphones should have different parameters, but state tying means it's generally called, in short, you will see the term state tying. By state tying, you are using same parameters to model both the triphones. Let's say ka a pa and ta a pa. Both these triphones could be modeled with similar, sorry, same parameters. And now it is possible that the beginning is same, but the ending is different. So, okay. So that's why we are saying that we are tying up individual states, not the complete HMM. Let's say the ka a ka, the initial, and pa a ka, the initial state, they are similar. And how do we find this similarity? We find it statistically. So we are using decision trees, etc., to uh, okay. So that's the thing. So basically, okay, now zooming out, what we see is that we have some limited amount of data, and we have some number of parameters, and there is an interplay between number of parameters and amount of data available to train those parameters. So depending on my data, I can either increase or decrease the number of parameters. And this is done with the help of this state tying, and this is achieved with the help of decision trees. We are not going into the details because I think this is towards the end of the course, and we have covered many things in this course. And if you're interested, you can go through the Kaldi documentation or the HTK book documentation to read more about it. But in practice, there are what do you say functions available in Kaldi toolkit which you can directly use. So that's why I'm not going into details of this. Okay, now any questions from your side? Any questions?
So I have a question regarding the project. When is the submission date?